Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
We all get older, that's pretty much a given. But what if how old you feel isn't really telling the whole story? About how your body's actually aging inside.
Mm,
Like, could you be biologically older or maybe even younger than your actual birthday number suggests?
that's a really key question. Feeling generally healthy doesn't always mean you're aging slowly at, say, cellular level.
Hmm.
There's a new way of looking at health that's kind of shaking things up.
Right, because usually we think about health like, do I have this disease? Do I have that condition?
Exactly. And that approach, well, it can miss the bigger picture. Aging is complex. It affects everything. Thinking just about single diseases is a bit like checking, I don't know, the tires and the windshield wipers on a car, but not the overall wear and tear on the engine itself.
Okay, yeah, I get that. And that's where this whole idea of biological age comes in, as opposed to just, counting the candles on the cake or chronological age.
Precisely. Your biological age reflects the actual state of your body's tissues, your cells. And understanding that could be crucial for predicting your future health, how long you might stay healthy.
So someone who's, say, 50 chronologically could actually have a biological age that's younger, maybe 40, if they've lived really healthily.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Or the flip side, another 50-year-old, maybe with different health habits or history, might have a biological age closer to 60. And that difference, that biological age gap, it really can impact your risk for all those age-related illnesses down the line.
Okay. So in this deep dive, we're going to dig into a new tool that's trying to give us a much clearer picture of this biological age. It's called the Health Octo Tool.
Mhm.
And our mission today is basically to unpack what this tool is, how it works, and what it might mean for our health, our risk of disability, our chances for a long, healthy life.
Hmm.
We're looking at a recent paper in Nature Communications and a related health news article.
Sounds-
Okay, so maybe start with the basics. What's the fundamental problem with how we normally assess health right now?
Well, I touched on it, but the main issue is that we usually focus on finding and treating specific individual diseases. Your doctor checks your blood pressure, your cholesterol, maybe screens for certain cancers.
Right, standard checkup stuff.
And those checks are definitely important, don't get me wrong, but they don't necessarily capture how different health issues might be interacting, or how even problems that seem minor can add up over time and really contribute to the body's overall aging process.
So it's like having this list of separate problems, but not really seeing how they might all be connected, maybe even speeding up our internal biological clock.
That's a great way to put it. Even small deviations from perfect health in different organ systems, they can add to this overall biological wear and tear. Plus, current methods often don't fully account for how having multiple conditions at once, multimorbidity, might accelerate aging more than just the sum of its parts.
Ah, okay. Like having both high blood pressure and some kidney issues might be worse combined than just having one or the other.
Exactly. The combined impact might push your biological age up faster, and standard checkups might not fully capture that increased rate of aging.
So the scientists behind this new tool, they're suggesting a totally different way to think about it, an aging-based framework, I think they called it.
Yes, that's the term. The core idea is to shift the focus. Instead of just treating diseases after they appear, let's try to understand the basic processes of aging itself, the things that make us more susceptible to those diseases in the first place.
Okay, looking upstream, sort of.
Right. By looking at aging itself, the hope is we can find the root causes and maybe develop ways to slow the whole process down rather than just playing whack-a-mole with individual illnesses.
Okay. So how does the Health Octo tool fit into that? What is this tool?
So the Health Octo Tool is essentially a new method for assessing health, using 8 specific measurements or metrics. And the cool thing is, these metrics are all derived from information you typically get from a physical exam and routine lab tests.
Oh, so not super specialized, expensive tests.
Generally, no. It uses common clinical data. And the foundation of this tool is a concept called health entropy.
Health entropy. Okay, that sounds sciencey. Can you break that down a bit?
Yeah, it does sound technical.
Yeah.
But think of it like this. Health entropy is basically the gradual accumulation of damage in your body, right down at the molecular and cellular level. That happens over time.
Like microscopic wear and tear.
Exactly. And this damage affects how well your organs and your body systems function. So health entropy is a measure of this built-up damage and its impact on your overall physical well-being. The researchers propose that this measure can also give us a handle on your pace of aging.
Got it. So it's less about if you have a specific disease label and more about the overall state of the body's machinery, how much stress and strain it's under. Okay, so what are these 8 measurements then? What does the Health Octo tool actually look at to figure out this health entropy?
Right, so the researchers developed these metrics using data primarily from the Baltimore longitudinal study on aging, a really long-running study that's tracked adults' health for decades.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a well-known one.
It is. And crucially, they also validated their approach using data from 2 other huge studies involving over 45,000 adults in total. So the first key metric is the body organ disease number.
Okay.
This is pretty straightforward. It's just the count of how many different organ systems in your body show signs of disease or are not functioning perfectly normally. They looked at 13 systems like cardiovascular, respiratory, neurological, and they also counted cancer and stroke separately, bringing the potential total to 14 systems.
So the more systems have some kind of issue, the higher that number goes, from 1 up to 14.
Exactly right. Now, from that, they derived the next set, bodily system-specific clocks. Think of these as predicted body organ disease numbers, but zoomed in on just one organ system at a time.
Ah, so you could get like a biological age just for your cardiovascular system or just for your lungs?
That's the idea. It suggests different parts of your body might indeed be aging at different speeds.
Okay, interesting. What's next?
That leads to the third metric, the body clock. This is kind of the big one. It's a composite measure of your overall intrinsic biological age. It's derived by looking at the predicted body organ disease number across all your organ systems,
Yeah.
weighing how much each disease contributes for that specific person.
And you said earlier it doesn't directly use your chronological age in the calculation.
That's a key point. It's calculated purely based on the disease burden across the body. So the body clock is like your body's overall wear and tear score, independent of the calendar.
Wow. Okay. So a single number representing how old your body acts, biologically speaking, based on the health of all its parts.
That's a good summary. Now, building on that, they also developed bodily system-specific age. This metric looks at the rate of aging for each individual organ system.
How fast each part is aging.
Exactly. They did this statistically by looking at how those bodily system-specific clocks change as people get older, chronologically. And as you might guess, they confirmed that different organ systems often age at different rates, some faster, some slower.
Yeah, that definitely feels true sometimes. My knees might argue they're older than my shoulders. So what else?
Next is the body age. This represents the overall rate at which your entire body is aging. It's calculated by looking at how that main body clock measure changes with chronological age.
Okay, so the body clock is a snapshot of current biological age, and body age is the speed at which you're getting biologically older.
You got it. Snapshot versus speed. Now, the last few metrics link this biological aging to functional outcomes.
Right, like what your body can actually do.
Precisely. So we have the speed body clock. This predicts the effect of your body clock score on your walking speed. Walking speed is a really critical indicator of physical function, especially in older adults.
Okay, so a higher body clock score might predict slower walking.
That's the expectation. And related to that is the speed body age. This tells us the rate of aging, specifically in terms of how your body clock affects your walking speed. It's looking at how quickly your walking speed is likely to decline relative to your underlying biological age.
Gotcha. So is your slowing down happening faster than expected for your biological state?
That's a question it addresses. And finally, the last two are about disability risk. First, the disability body clock. This predicts the effect of your body clock score on your risk of developing cognitive or physical disabilities.
How do they measure disability?
They created what they called a disability index. It combined information on physical function, cognitive function, history of falls, and incontinence using some sophisticated statistical modeling.
Okay, and the last one.
The disability body age. This reflects the rate of aging in terms of how your intrinsic biological age, measured by that body clock, impacts your risk of becoming disabled over time.
Wow. Okay, so taken together, these 8 metrics from the Health Octo tool paint a really detailed picture. It's not just biological age now, but also the rate of aging for the whole body and for different systems, and how that links to real-world function like walking speed and disability risk. That's way more nuanced than just getting a diagnosis for one illness.
Absolutely. It's a much more holistic view. And the researchers used advanced statistical methods, Bayesian models, to develop this, accounting for uncertainty and even considering that the severity of different disease states can vary. It's not just yes, no.
And they checked it against other big data sets too, you said.
Yes, they validated the body clock by applying the parameters they developed from the Baltimore study to the data from the Incanti study in Italy and the Incanti study in the US. That cross-validation adds confidence that the tool is robust.
Okay, so after crunching all that data, what were some of the main takeaways? What did they actually discover?
Well, there were several really interesting findings. One big one was that some health conditions that might seem relatively minor when you're younger, especially if they're left untreated like borderline high blood pressure, could actually have a pretty significant impact on your rate of aging later in life.
Huh. So those things you might ignore or put off dealing with can really catch up to you biologically.
It certainly suggests that. It underscores how important early intervention and management of even seemingly small health issues might be for long-term healthy aging.
That's a powerful reminder. What else stood out?
Something else quite counterintuitive, perhaps. They found that sometimes milder states of certain organ system diseases, think early-stage kidney disease or mild anemia, actually showed a larger contribution to that overall body organ disease number than more severe states of the same conditions.
Wait, really? Milder disease had a bigger impact sometimes. How does that work?
It's a bit complex, but it suggests that these subtle early declines across multiple systems might be really important drivers of the overall aging process, maybe even more so than having one very advanced disease in isolation. It points to the importance of widespread, low-level dysfunction.
That's fascinating. So it's not just the 5 alarm fires, but also all the little smoldering issues across the body that add up.
That seems to be part of the picture, yes. And related to that, they also observed that diseases for which there aren't specific pharmacological treatments sometimes had a stronger predictive effect on the body organ disease number.
Suggesting that when the body has to cope without medication backup, the biological toll might be greater.
That could be one interpretation, yeah. It highlights the impact of conditions that rely more heavily on the body's own resilience, or lack thereof.
Okay, and thinking about the future, how well did this body clock, this main measure, actually predict future health problems?
It performed very well, actually. The body clock was found to be a strong predictor of future disability, those common geriatric syndromes like falls and incontinence, and even mortality risk.
Better than other measures.
Yes. Notably, it outperformed the frailty index in these predictions. The frailty index is another common tool that essentially counts the number of health deficits a person has. The fact that the body clock was a better predictor suggests it might be capturing a deeper, more fundamental aspect of the aging process.
So this concept of health entropy, the buildup of damage, really seems to track well with your risk of negative health outcomes later on.
It appears so. The researchers emphasize that this health entropy, measured by the body clock, tends to increase with age as diseases accumulate across multiple systems. And critically, having multiple conditions, multimorbidity isn't just additive, it represents a more complex synergistic effect of this accumulated damage.
And it sounds like the tool also helps us see how differently people age. It's not one size fits all.
Absolutely. That's a key strength. The Health Octo Tool clearly captures the heterogeneity of aging. The fact that people of the exact same chronological age can have vastly different biological ages.
Right.
And even within one person, different organ systems can be aging at different speeds. It really highlights that aging is a highly individual journey.
So the body clock could potentially help explain why some 80-year-olds are running marathons while others are quite frail, even if they were born the same year.
That's the kind of insight it could offer, yes. It seems to differentiate between the rate at which damage is accumulating versus the body's ability to withstand or repair that damage, what the researchers call resilience, both at the organ level and for the whole body.
You mentioned something earlier about potential differences between men and women. Did that hold up?
Yes. In the large Inchianti and Enhane studies, they did observe a trend where women in the older age groups tended to have higher body clock values than men.
Suggesting maybe faster biological aging in women, at least in those groups.
Potentially, yes, in those specific populations. However, it's interesting. That difference wasn't seen in the original Baltimore study cohort, which, remember, started out recruiting healthier individuals.
Okay, so more research needed there probably, but it hints at possible sex differences in the aging trajectory captured by this tool.
Exactly. It shows the importance of studying diverse populations.
Now, this all sounds incredibly promising, but like any new tool or model, I assume there are limitations, things we should be aware of.
Oh, definitely. And the researchers are upfront about them. One important point is that the Baltimore study, the primary data source, initially recruited pretty healthy volunteers.
Right.
So how well the tool performs, or if the patterns hold true in populations with more severe pre-existing conditions, or who were less healthy to begin with, might need further study. The generalizability needs continued assessment.
That makes sense. If you build the model on healthier people, it might not perfectly capture the dynamics in a less healthy group.
Precisely. Another point they mentioned was about the NEAE-NEST data from the US. While it's a huge data set, it apparently had some limitations in the specific disease information available compared to the very detailed Baltimore study data.
So maybe missing some details.
Yeah, which could potentially lead to a slight underestimation of the body clock scores calculated using that particular data set. It just highlights that the tool's accuracy depends, in part, on the quality and completeness of the input health data.
Good point. Anything else?
Well, just the general caveat that aging is incredibly complex. This tool is based on clinical and lab data, but it obviously can't capture every single factor that influences how we age, like all the intricate genetic predispositions or the full spectrum of environmental exposures someone has throughout their life.
Right. It's a powerful snapshot based on available health data, but not the absolute final word on someone's entire aging process.
Exactly. It's a valuable piece of the puzzle, but not the whole puzzle.
Okay, so we've covered the tool, the findings, the limitations. What's the overall feeling from the researchers themselves? What do they see as the main potential here?
They seem very optimistic. They strongly advocate for this aging-based framework, really looking at aging itself as a target. They believe the Health Octo Tool offers a genuinely new way to understand why people age so differently.
And potentially to track interventions.
Yes, that's a big part of it.
Right.
They see it as a way to evaluate how well different strategies, whether it's lifestyle changes like diet and exercise, or new medical treatments, are actually working to slow down biological aging and promote healthier longevity.
So you could, in theory, track your body clock score over time and see if the changes you're making are having a measurable biological effect.
That's the vision. They're actually developing a digital application based on this tool right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the hope is that this app could empower both individuals and their doctors to monitor biological age, see how different organ systems are doing, and track the impact of treatments or lifestyle choices.
Wow, that could be incredibly motivating for people to get that kind of personalized feedback.
Absolutely. Imagine seeing evidence that your efforts are actually making your body biologically younger or slowing its aging rate.
Yeah.
They also see potential uses in all sorts of healthcare settings, from routine checkups in all-age clinics to informing precision medicine approaches, and even for use in clinical trials, testing anti-aging therapies.
It really sounds like they view this as a potential paradigm shift, moving towards a more proactive, personalized approach focused on the aging process itself, not just reacting to diseases.
That sums it up nicely. By focusing on the underlying mechanisms of aging captured by tools like this, the ultimate goal is to find ways to help everyone live not just longer, but healthier for longer.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into the Health Octo tool. It definitely makes you think differently about aging and health. It's clear there's so much more going on than just whether or not you have a specific diagnosis. This whole idea of biological age, health entropy, and being able to measure it with these 8 interconnected metrics, it seems really powerful. So if you had to boil it down, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key point is that this Health Octo tool represents a move towards a more nuanced, detailed, and personalized understanding of your biological age and your individual rate of aging compared to just looking at chronological age or isolated health conditions.
It's digging deeper into the why and how of aging for each person.
Exactly. It considers the whole system, the accumulation of damage, that health entropy idea, and how it impacts function.
And the potential downstream effects could be pretty significant for healthcare.
I think so. Tools like this could lead to new insights into how we age, help doctors identify people at higher risk much earlier, and ultimately allow for more tailored interventions to promote healthy aging. It opens up possibilities.
So as you've been listening along, here's maybe a final thought to chew on. Reflect a little on your own lifestyle, your health history, what aspects might be influencing your biological age right now, and maybe think about the future, how tools like this Health Octo tool might one day help you not just understand your own aging process better, but actually give you the power to influence it. It might even be something worth bringing up with your doctor in the future, this whole concept of biological versus chronological age.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.